All right, very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are all set to begin with another stimulating session on connecting the dots. First of all, I would like to thank our esteemed speakers for being part of the panel discussion. Welcoming Dr. Haresh Chaturvedi, Chief Transformation Officer, GSP Crop Science Private Limited, Rakesh Patel, SVP and Group Head, People and Culture, Equus Capital, Mr. Sagar Vadapurkar, VP and Head, People Success and Culture, EXAT, Ms. Konika Chadda, Head of Professional Search, India, Conferry. Our esteemed panelists would share their views on the topic Future of Work. The future of work continues to be synonymous with a remote and hybrid workforce. But while this shift is a seismic change for many organizations, it is only part of the equation. Workforce planning, anticipating future talent needs, is at the epicenter of a for HR leaders. But today's workforce planning is disconnected from reality and current strategies are ineffective at combating the disruptive landscape. HRA welcomes you all to the session on connecting the dots. To know more about HRA and its events, I would request all our participants to visit the link and details posted in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We will be running a poll before the Q&A session. Request all the participants to give your feedback on the session. I now take the privilege to introduce our moderator for the session, and further she can take it forward from there. Konika Chadda, Head of Professional Search India, Conferry. Konika is the Head of Professional Search and Regional Market Leader for Conferry in India. Konika has been instrumental in establishing the leadership teams in some of leading organizations in the country. She has over 22 years of accomplished experience in the field of talent acquisition across all levels in different sectors. She also won her Rising Award in 2019 for Women in HR and also recognized in India as a strong leader and has received multiple recognitions, including Exception Woman Leader from the Women's Economic Forum in 2018 and 2022. You can follow her on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. Without wasting much time, we'll hand over the platform to Ms. Konika. Over to you, Ms. Konika.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's great to be part of this discussion. I think it's an esteemed panel that we have today, and I would like to, take the next few minutes introducing each of them. So welcome Dr. Haresh Chaturvedi, Chief Transformation Officer, GSP Crop Science Private Limited. Dr. Haresh is an HR thought leader who believes in the power of positivity, backed by more than 3 decades of wholesome HR experience in FMCG and manufacturing domains. He partnered with businesses providing solutions to problems ranging from minute to complex. He enjoys grooming students at institutions for every tier. He founded and successfully steering path-breaking HR Forum, HR Milestone, to fuel the passion of giving back to the fraternity. You can follow him on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. Welcome, welcome Rakesh Patel, SVP and Group Head, People and Culture, Equus Capital. Rakesh is a human resource leader with strong business acumen. He has over 2 decades of experience working across diverse industries. Currently, the SVP and Global Group Head at Equus Capital has worked closely with the leadership teams in successfully driving the people agenda across people development, coaching, strategic planning, and business process improvisation. As an inborn trainer, facilitator, counselor, and coach, he's a perfect blend of sales and human behavioral proficiencies and has managed end-to-end training, OD, and engagement effectively. He has profound experience in establishing an organization's value system and people management competence. Beyond professional life, Rakesh is an avid reader, a canvas painter, and enjoys cooking new recipes. You can follow him on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window.
Thanks a lot, Konika.
Sure. Great. Last but not the least, Mr. Sagar Vadapurkar, VP and Head People Success and Culture Exact, with a stupendous experience in the field of management, ranging from developing HR policies, recruiting talent, and HR business partnering to change management, performance management, employee engagement, and stakeholder relationships. Sagar has made it to being the Vice President and Head People Success and Culture at Exact, a health science education management software company. He holds an MBA and PGDM degree in marketing management. Previously being the sales officer with Prefity India, Sagar went on to build a sales career with global companies like Procter & Gamble, Kellogg's, etc. It all kick-started when Sagar played a corporate HR role for ICICI Bank staffing arm as zonal head of HR, where he was managing geographies of Maharashtra and Gujarat. His work with Bajaj Allianz Life as head of talent acquisition, managing as a business partner for Future Generali Life Insurance Company India Limited, and later as head of HR for Dhani Group, has surely been the reason for his victorious professional journey. He strongly believes in the philosophy, you are a successful leader when you create and nurture more leaders. He has had an immense contribution in making his companies reach new heights. May it be leading the vision to develop Dhani's platform from square one or recruiting ingenious employees for Dhani Group, resulting in an increased headcount to 20,000 in no more than 5 years. It can be evidently seen that all his direct reports have reached respective positions in the industry. You can follow him too on LinkedIn, and the link is in the chat window for you all. So welcome everyone. And I think their experience speaks volumes in terms of, the delight we are all in with the discussion that we are going to have in today. I'd just like to, add on to Fazal, what you just mentioned. The future of work is an ever-evolving concept that encompasses a wide range of topics, including automation, artificial intelligence, remote work, and the gig economy. With advances in technology, the way we work is rapidly changing, and organizations are having to adapt to keep pace. The future of work will bring more challenges and opportunities, as companies will have to find new ways to stay competitive while also creating a more flexible and inclusive workforce. The key to successfully navigating the future of work will be a willingness to embrace change and a focus on developing the skills needed to thrive in a rapidly evolving job market. So I think with that, before we jump into the question and answer session, I want to make a confession. This last paragraph was not written by me. It was written in 2 seconds by ChatGPT. So welcome to the future of work, where, there is disruption happening every minute, every second. And, with that, what I'm going to do is, Rakesh, I'm going to put you in the hot seat. And the first question to you, given your experience across different sectors and being in the investment business, what are some of the developments you're seeing with regard to future of work, technology, productivity? Over to you.
Thanks a lot, Konika, for the good words initially. And I like that statement where you mentioned that this was actually taken from ChatGPT. And I think that's the way the things are evolving today. My experience with private equity and the range of businesses which we have been overseeing has given some very clear and broad indications as to how the future of work is shaping up. The first thing, work and workplace, right, today is becoming very global. It seems that if we were to look at whether it is talent, whether it is people, right, locally the needs may not get met as we are moving ahead with the kind of changes that we see. Multiple teams from multiple geographies are at play. and bringing cohesion amongst them by virtue of systems and processes is a significant challenge which today many organizations are going to be facing. And as we progress ahead further, multiple cultural demographics, different shift timings, different time zones, varying expectations of workforce, the language barriers are all demands which we have already started addressing as we are embarking on this journey. Building efficiencies and vision alignment amongst these multiple teams which I'm talking about from multi geographies, doing multiple varying tasks is a challenge in itself. And keeping people productive and measuring productivity would require even larger efforts, right, to establish. Needless to say that technology adoption and upgradation is going to be a need at all levels, because dimensions of work is changing, speed and efficiency is getting built in, newer skill sets are seeking prominence, older people will be required to adapt the newer ways of doing things, and which is again going to be pretty much tough, because quite a number of industries or organizations, the way we look at, have a traditional mode till today. And most importantly, that long-term planning is a very distant concept now. Typically, what I've seen in the last 2-3 years, planning even beyond 2 years is actually practically becoming impossible. And thereby, from a private equity perspective, if I talk about long-term investment strategy, is again a point of concern. So the increasing reliance is now on outsourcing the functions, effectively managing them by virtue of the cost and managing itself. And this is going to be a reality very soon. And to add on to that, as you rightly mentioned, that gig workforce management is again becoming significant for businesses amongst the frequently changing business dynamics. Legal cyber compliance, governance, whether from a people perspective or from a data perspective, is also becoming pertinent. And most importantly, what I've seen working with different set of organizations, right, as a part of this private equity firm, the new age industries are finding it comparatively easy to adapt and do the transition. But in the old age industries, which are getting driven traditionally, are actually finding it very difficult to transit, even when the domestic remote working is something which we got exposed to post-pandemic. So apparently these are few things which I see are some of those developments from a future of work perspective, which is going to be very, very critical for us to look at it on a very holistic level, right? And keep changing and very frequently at a rapid pace. And that too from a top to bottom. It's not alone that a segment can bring about this kind of a transformation or deal or adapt with this kind of a transformation. So that's my submission.
No, I think very, very rightly said, Rakesh. I think you've given a very good business perspective of it. And I think 2 years, I remember where, organizations talk 5-year, 10-year plan. Even 2 years today is becoming a challenge to get through, because you don't know what's going to happen in 2 months. Suddenly overnight that disruption happens. Now, which means that today probably our workplaces are really changing. So Sagar, I'm going to come to you with the next question, following from where Rakesh has actually kind of left it and giving us a business perspective. What would be your view? You've got rich experience in multiple areas from an HR standpoint and across industries. What do you think the workplace is looking like? What's the same today? What do you think is really changing?
Okay. So first of all, thank you so much for that introduction, to start with, Konika. But yeah, I mean, I'm supposed to be, a panel with Dr. Chaturvedi and Patel Sahab. I think it's my pleasure, and of course you. So moving on, I think the workplace for tomorrow is going to be transformative, competitive, and at the same time very agile, as Patelji said, and very demanding also, because the disruptions are happening at all levels. Any competitive advantage which is offered by the competitor product or the competitor company is supposed to be overcome by the organization that we are talking about. In my mind, hybrid workplace will continue for about 1.5-2 years from now. But eventually, I think there will be a day where it will go back to normalcy. In about 3+ years, one can say that. Using of technology is going to be a critical disruptive parameter in any function, be it HR, be it sales, be it finance, be it development, or any other things that will increase a lot. For example, in BFSI or fintech companies, there is a tradition to have CIBIL check of people, those who are recruited. Now, in my opinion, there is also supposed to be a social CIBIL, which I'm giving a terminology, which will be required while you are recruiting the candidate, that how he or she is behaving on the social media, and what are the thoughts. Are they extremist, or are they open? Are they those kind of things? I think that will come in days to come. AI will be our way of life, whether it is employee engagement or connecting with employees or connecting with people. ChatGPT is already is a way of life, is what you've said. And I can foresee that the recruiter's job is being taken over by ChatGPT for the first round of interviews which are going to happen. The face reading mechanisms are already are here to stay, and the first round of interview or the first check has to be done, and I'll not be surprised if the ChatGPT gives an assessment to the HR team saying that, hey, look, this candidate is good or not, in that sense. So I think these are going to be some of those things. Employers will have to be putting in extra efforts towards using the tech for the people related processes, but also an employee care. Fitness, wellness is given a due importance which wasn't there in pre-pandemic days to what it is today. The yoga classes, or those kind of apps, or those kind of integrations which are happening in the HRMS software. We all know a brand called Cult or similar brands which are available. They are getting associated with the corporates, where employees can go on their own choice, book for a session, and enjoy a Zumba class, and be fit, and be mentally fit, physically fit also. So this area is absolute encouraging, absolute exciting for people to participate. For an organization, yes, it's an extra penny to be spent, but I think it is a requirement of the time. Also, you asked me what will be the same, right? I think in my mind, human touch is not going to go away. So what we say is, HR, that is not going to go away. HR is not replaceable by the technology, while it comes to connecting with people, while it comes to being empathetic to people, while it is being, training them on leadership, or, a couple of those things. So that is going to stay, as it is. I mean, of course, usage of technology will definitely come, but yeah, I mean, that human touch will come. Will continue. In my mind, I think the entrepreneurial mindset is something that organizations will see in new talent which is being hired. Or you have also talked about gig, working. So I think we can clearly see that, down the line, 2-3 years, there are some roles, traditional roles in the industry are getting redundant, and they are getting, taken over by the gig workers, which is going to be a reality very soon. For example, training, is one of the classic example, of gig working. People, there are a lot of, trainers, those who are getting qualified and are ready to take up, small time jobs. And that is a classic example of a gig working. I think that is also going to be a reality very soon, is what I think.
Oh, thank you. I think, Sagar, you've touched on some very, very important elements. And one thing which is coming out from your, all the points you've touched and what you were trying to close with, but what remains the same, and I'm going to stay with that, which is people. It's human beings. That's the core of whatever we are doing, whether it is technology, whether it is transformation, it is business models, whatever it may be. I think that kind of remains the core in whatever we are doing, whatever decisions we are taking. And I know organizations today are really facing a situation where, they're in a dilemma between technology and the people aspect of it. And, that's where, there's a lot of work we guys are doing, and we call it the radically human form of leadership, which is needed today with technology coming in. And I'm gonna come to you now, Dr. Chaturvedi, in terms of, we spoke business, we spoke about changes, but I think given your background and, being the Chief Transformation Officer, I think as a leader and having done this, what do you think it means for the leadership team, from a people perspective, with so many variables coming into play really? And how should they be ready? And how do you think they should prepare the organization to be ready for changes and what the future holds for us? You're on mute, Dr. Chaturvedi. Yeah.
I think the video got stuck.
Yeah, I think he's having a little bit of a bandwidth issue. Because I think he needs to be unmuted.
I'll just check.
I think Dr. Chaturvedi, you can speak.
It's done now.
So, Haresh bhai, what we can do is maybe we can switch the video off, and then perhaps your bandwidth will be a little better and you will be able to continue.
It's okay. I think,
now
it's okay now.
Yeah, it's okay. Please carry on.
It's okay now.
Yes.
So thank you, Karika. And with the caveat that video chal raha hai na? Monica?
Yeah. We can see you. You can go on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So with the caveat, we are talking about the gazing ball. I don't know how things will be changing, how things will be moving ahead. This topic we are discussing, I think, about the future of workplace. But the question what you are asked about the leader ready themselves, the new reality. So it reminds me of the incident which has happened in Taj, Hotel Taj, where NSC commandos were flown from the Delhi. They were not knowing the geography of Taj. They were not knowing who were the terrorists. They were not knowing who were the clients, who were the guests, who were the employees of the Taj Hotel. But to surprise, after their entry into the Taj Hotel, I think there was no casualty. Right. So that was the mindset what NSG commandos has been trained. The NS training, I think we have to undergo as a leader for facing the situation, whatever comes around. But having said this, the future of leaders should have, I think, the character of this leader in the future should is one who thrives in the uncomfortable situation. Situations are not going to remain similar. Future leaders should know what future ready is not the study, continual process to becoming and refining. To becoming and refining is the word now. So today's leader have to understand to survive in the uncomfortable situation.
Mm.
I think they know how and where to change for the better. They should adapt immediately to the situation. That is the one character what leader in the future should understand. And they have to employ the targeted innovation to drive the changes. The changes will be very frequent, right?
Mm.
And the innovative changes will be taking place, and the leaders have to use their innovative mind, creative thinking, and employing their target innovations to drive the changes. The biggest thing what everyone is talking about the technology is now the future leader has to embrace the data and technology to increase the decision making. So data and technology are the two keywords we're going to have to positive sign. But if you're not able to use the technology the right way, probably we'll be going with major wrong decisions. So as a leader, we have to understand, we have to learn that techniques, how to take decision based on data and technology. And keeping this point into mind, the leaders have to look at the organizations which remaining a step ahead of the situation of the time, reinventing the core in the organization. They have to work on the core of the organization. And the important from the HR perspective, they have to secure right capabilities in the organization. This is my submission of the future leader.
No, very well, very well said, Dr. Chaturvedi. And when you were giving the example of the NSG guards, I was like, wow. It actually means everybody has to literally be trained to be an NSG person, commando for that matter. And that's an uphill task. So, but what you said was brilliant and absolutely, hitting the nail at the right point. It's literally become that. It's literally become that with, the kind of changes which are there. And I come back to you, Rakesh, with this one. And given the context, that you are probably privy to what kind of changes are happening in the world much faster than others, given your investment background, really. So what are you seeing as the speed of innovation, really? Because, there's literally every new thing happening every day with respect to that. And how do you think this is really impacting from a people and organization perspective?
Monica, that's an interesting question, actually. I'll share something here. 4 words, right, which I apparently have coined in the recent times, right, with the kind of experiences that I've been having. First was innovate with a purpose. The second is adapting, right, with whatever innovations that are happening. Third is transforming, which is the crux. And fourth, and very, very important, keeping this entire process a constant. So innovate with purpose, adapt, transform, and constant. Now, with these 4 words, from a private equity perspective and a human capital standpoint, typically, if we look at any private equity or a venture capitalist, the kind of challenges, which we face, right, is not only being responsible for the people and culture needs of our own firm, but also that of the portfolio companies. And more often than not, the same cookie cutter cannot be applied to all the portfolio companies. That is one very clear aspect. Now, the way I look at innovation, right, it's actually just not a technical matter, but rather it is a newer and an improvised way of doing things with a clearly understood purpose of transform. So that's the crux which I look at from an innovation perspective. And the faster we align to the purpose and unravel the problem statement, the faster will we innovate and enable the transformation to actually get building. So this, to my mind, is the mantra beyond on which we need to actually work upon. Looking at the role of a private equity firm, few changes which I foresee happening are the one like business transformation, which seems an integral way to create valuation of business and give returns to stakeholders or investors. It is more a matter of width than depth, which establishes the need of creating contract, rather the advisory in a contract mechanism, which is very relevant to business because you need different skill sets, right, at different points in time for a period of duration, which can actually enable the transformation to happen. Thereby, hiring seems to shift more from an on-roll employees to contract hiring of people with niche skill set pertaining to the specific domains. So that's one area which I clearly foresee is going to come in the times to come. And with the requirement of niche skill sets and the cost feasibility, which also needs to be taken care of simultaneously, the need of remote working, tech-enabled logistics, along with powerful communication tools will acquire prominence. And associated with it would increase the need to adapt, learn, connect, engage innovatively, share ideas, and collaborate on the projects which are there. And another critical fact which I very clearly foresee coming up is that the organizations will move more towards a flatter structure. And especially from a private equity firm perspective, if I were to look at. So the hiring people with leadership qualities will become imperative. Because people, irrespective of the experience, what they carry, whether it is 5 years, 3 years, or maybe 2 decades, it will be not a factor to look at. What will be important is that all these people will actually be expected to lead basis the niche skill sets and the qualities which they bring to the table. And I think that's a change which again, we will have to be very watchful and maybe, address at different points in time. Majority of the support functions, as I've already mentioned, will start getting outsourced. And we'll have to turn the focus on technology automation, data analytics, and artificial intelligence to streamline the processes and making those processes more efficient. And here I would still go ahead with Sagar that human touch will not move out, that's for sure. But apparently this need will acquire dominance, right? Because that's the way, the work is changing today. Organizations also thereby need to ensure strong leadership, support, and enablement from the top of the C-suite and business leadership to build this transformation. And it will have to scale an enterprise mindset across the organizations, enabling a culture of change and learning to happen, which I guess, again, Harish Bhai was referring to, right? And I think that's going to be, critical. But along with that, what is going to matter is the enterprising mindset, because that is how, the ownership is actually going to get built in. And needless to say, along with that, we need to establish governance to ensure that the transformation which we are building on actually stays on track. It does not lose, its way in the course of time. And along with that agility, right, to be able to, adapt at different point in time. So again, I will come back to those 4 words, right, with which I started off, right? So it is basically, innovating with a purpose, right? Adapting, transforming, and making this a constant process. So that's my submission, Konika.
No, I think, great points. And I think every time we are, this is a topic which is discussed, there is so much that comes out of it. And very rightly said that, today, I think Sagar spoke about that, about an entrepreneurial way of doing things. You're talking about enterprise leadership, people still being at the core. jobs are being, transitioned today. And Dr. Chaturvedi, I would like to, ask the next question to you, because, you're working with students today. And, there is much work and exposure that probably you're having with the newer generation coming in. And there's one question which people keep asking, and even us, coming with the background that we have, what does it mean for this future generations and probably even some of the existing people from a skill set perspective? What skills do you think become very critical in us today to be relevant tomorrow? Let me put it like that.
Okay, so again, very difficult question to predict what will be the skill set, because as Rakesh ji and Sagar both have talked about the future of the business and the organization, it's difficult to talk about the skill set required. But as we are working with the students and with the employees in the company, the most critical skill I look at is to become more human. And the responsibility of the leader will be beyond creating better employees. We must create a better human first. So that is the first thing, first skill set as a leader, as every one of us has that responsibility to inculcate, and the next generation has to take it forward. So that is the first skill I understand. I think it is the most critical skill to become a human, because we are going to work with machines. We are going to work with technology. And with all that, if you forget the human aspect, what Sagarji has said about, the same thing I will also reiterate, the social and emotional intelligence is the most important skill. Because as we are working with the digital and artificial intelligence, which will replace our all working, routine workings will be replaced by digital and artificial intelligence. But the only thing is emotional and social intelligence is not going to replace. So the second skill, that is emotional and social intelligence. So we have to work, we should continue working on that. So these are the two skills which apparently one has to work about from the human point of view. Another skill is, as we are moving towards the technology era, so digital literacy, the word literacy, we have to work on digital literacy. We have worked on STEAM, STEM. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Now we have to work on SMAC, that is social, mobile, analytics, and clouds. So the technology we have to adopt with SMAC. So that is another skill set we have to work upon. One is cognitive flexibility. The adaptability, as Rakesh ji has very rightly said, adaptability has with the changing situation will be the critical skill set what one has to develop. Resilience and stress tolerance, that is another skill, because a lot of pressure will be there, a lot of decisions you have to take at one point of time. So resilience and stress tolerance, flexibility, analytical thinking, innovation, critical thinking, and the most important is with the digital literacy, we have to practice use of technology. So these are the few skill set we have to work upon. But still, again, I will repeat, the most important skill we have to, every one of us has to focus and keep our focus on that is to become human.
No, absolutely. I think you've very beautifully framed it and, put a structure around it in terms of that. And I agree, it's very difficult in terms of looking at what lies ahead. But I think the message is very clear. There is work, more than enough work for everyone. It's the question is that you have to constantly keep upskilling yourself. You have to, kind of move with the change, and you have to be adapting. Like I think multiple times this word has come with this particular change. Now, Sagar, I'm going to come to you next. And, we spoke people, business. What are you looking at in this new reality? And given, this is a HR forum really, from an organization design and structure perspective and work policies which are there, there's work from home, there's flexibility, and then there's so much of change happening with technology. So what are your thoughts on this?
So Konika, see, the times are turbulent, and even for the organization, the business model that they are currently working upon, will it work in 2024 or 2025? Nobody knows. And I think that the future is ambiguous, and that is something which is forcing organizations to keep the design, the hierarchy or the organogram of the organization quite flatter. I think Rakesh ji also touched based upon this in his thing. I think gone are the days where there are 10 different hierarchies, and people are getting promotions just by the hook of whatever. But I think organizations by design are getting flatter. I think the second most important topic that is also close to my heart is best ever inclusive approach is being adopted. Diversity and inclusion is something which was there on cards in books and PDFs and presentations pandemic, but now I think it is a reality of life. Most of the organizations have D&I managers being recruited specially to take care of those aspects. So it's not only male-female ratio, but it's also about inclusive of all the possible diversities that we have in India. I think that is going to be staying with the design of the organization. Culture wise, I think it is going to be more transparent. I think the transparency has to be brought in by this one, and of course the organization also has to foster the trust on employees. I would come back being the HR professional on wellness of employees, because I think that is also going to be very crucial differentiator while people change jobs, and I think that's the reality. I have seen many people refusing the job offers just because the parental health insurance not there, in that sense. So I think that is going to be a extra burden on the organization monetarily, but yes, that's the demand of the time. Plus, there are wellness breaks, there are period leaves, which is also talk of the town today, paternity leaves. Even the new dad wants to spend time with the newly born kid, sabbaticals. Another new funda which is coming on and is digital detox, which is also being talked about on social media quite a bit, like 3-4 days you are out of your Facebooks and Instagrams and all that, and of course out of mobile, and be on in Himalayas and take a time out and those kind of things. So organizations also have to be adaptive for these kind of changes that are coming in, especially for millennials. That brings me to the topic of policies which are there. I think the campus or generation millennial recruitment is not going to go away. Organizations will have to go to the campuses, recruit talent, and those kind of programs which traditionally have been there, maybe some adoption of changes out there, and so on and so forth. I think that is not going to go away. So that is going to be the culture for that matter. Post pandemic, I think we have all seen boundaryless working. So hiring has always been location agnostic now for most of the organizations. So you can target a talent where you are not operative of. Let's say if I don't have an office in Calcutta, but the talent is there, we can still hire him or her. I think that wasn't the reality pre-pandemic. I think this is help. So I think work policies are getting more boundaryless workplace, those kind of things. Another very important topic touch based by both the eminent leaders is skill enhancement for the leaders. I think all the managers need to be empathetic. They should know, they better know how to manage teams in the hybrid work environment and keep the productivity and the morale. I think that is something which is going to go continue. And last but not the least, on the policy and the culture, I would say open source change strategy. I think there is a time which has come. In fact, quite a few organizations that I have seen following is it's not only a top-down approach. There is always a mechanism to, gather people's responses on few topics and then, being talked about, and then, the organization goes ahead on some of the strategies or product or launches or whatever those things. Open source change strategies.
Sure. And Sagar, while I'm conscious on time, but I am going to do a little bit of an extension to what you just said. And I think it's going to be very interesting to know, you've spoken about so much was in terms of culture. Today, I know there are so many people ask that question. What is culture? People are not coming into office. There are so many changes happening with skill sets, etc. How does one ensure that this culture is actually getting imbibed in organizations today? While it's important to do these things, but how does one ensure this?
Okay, so I think, organizations, Konika and the, panel above, I think you all will agree that they are, kind of okay, or, they are adopting this practice of in-person meetings, once in a week, twice in a week, conferences, I think the transportation, travel and hotels are open. So I have seen a lot of offsites happening, town halls happening, skill enhancement platforms are happening. So there is some in-person connect which is happening now, of course, after, 2021, I think 2022 is something that we have seen all this happening, physically. Another new concept, Konika, that is happening is companies are recruiting a title of Chief Happiness Officer to, have the index of happiness of employees. I think that is also going to be a part of this, imbibing the culture, towards, then, because there are a lot of surveys which keeps on happening, pulse surveys, monthly surveys, quarterly surveys. There's a lot of data which is getting collected. And all those policies and the culture, setting mechanisms are imbibed through or coming out through these surveys in that sense. I think another, aspect is the HR team is becoming more and more cautious about, these aspects that, how do we connect, with people in this environment? How do we, kind of pass on some messages and, be as connective as possible in that sense. So I think the culture per se is still, that in person plus with the help of technology, it is still getting imbibed.
No, thanks for that. And I know we can kind of continue on this, but there is something more I think I would like, Rakesh and Dr. Chaturvedi to cover. So Rakesh, very quickly, your thoughts. What does this mean for the CEO and board? You also talked about earlier, things being driven from the top. What does this really mean for them?
See, this is one aspect which in the past few months, I think we have been discussing a lot. And while I share my thought on that, I'll also refer to one of the articles which was actually written by Korn Ferry, right, on this topic as well, because I had gone through that some time back. And I guess I could resonate with quite a lot of thoughts that were there. So, and I'll try to be concise because this topic essentially is very close to my heart. So I can actually go
and
on
also
and
very broad. I mean,
yes,
it can kind of
precisely.
go on and on. Yeah.
So as organizations actually and their boards journey into the future of work, they will experience changing business conditions, new workforce models, new jobs, older jobs becoming obsolete. But what is going to happen is there's a demand of new skills. And I think Haresh Bhai and Sagar also made reference to that. See, the organization would need leaders who are not just competent, but actually exceptional. And when I say that, I also mean to, basically say that they have to have multiple, skills, which are today very demanding. Technologically, board and the CEO typically have to embrace it. They can't ignore, they can't avoid, right? That's something which they will have to do. The way the world is changing and the way, as Haresh Bhai also mentioned, that the critical skills is being human, right? I would actually take that one step ahead, that today what the business demands, whether we look at the customer, whether we look at the stakeholder or the employees, right? The CEOs will be expected to demonstrate social accountability, right? Unless that comes in, right? They will not be able to, there is a significant reputational, operational, and business risk which the organization will be facing in the times to come. The CEOs actually would be expected to, rather, take charge of a mission rather than commanding. That is very, very important. And this word I take from your Korn Ferry, article back again, correct? And I think that is very, very pertinent. And it actually relates to what I was talking about, that, there has to be a purpose, right? The purpose will have to be very well understood, right? By all the stakeholders. And that is where the role of CEO and the board is going to be very critical. And most importantly, those days are gone when, apparently board of directors, मतलब वो लोग हुआ करते थे कि जो, ठीक है, मतलब they are a part of the family and, it will continue to go on. Today, what we need is they have to actually envision things the way a CEO does, right? That's very, very important, right? And they have to bring those skills into their table. They cannot be just the stamping authorities, right? कि मैंने एक decision को stamp कर दिया and it's done over, right? So apparently they have to take part in it, right? And they have to add value, right? At every point in time, they might have to question also, right? As to what is happening, but understanding as to what the business is there for, right? So this is something which is very, very, critical, and the relationship between the board and the CEO is also going to be very, very complementary, right? One seeks advice, right? And the other also accepts, adds value to it, right? Trust and that open dialogue is going to be very, very, important. And last and not the least, the diversity has to be there in the board.
Very important. Yeah.
So diversity का ये जो जिसके बारे में सागर रेफर कर रहे थे, right? That diversity is very important. Diversity here, not just in terms of those age, gender, ethnicity or race or anything like that, but more from domain specific skills, right? As to what they bring to the table. And this, to my mind, is going to be a very, very strong differentiator. Apart from, what I was talking about as far as the agility, right, is concerned. Because वो transformation कोई भी organization तब तक नहीं कर सकती जब तक कि the board and the CEO are actually not sponsoring it, right, and are acknowledging it that this is the need of the day.
No, sure.
That, to my mind, is very, very critical. And today, I think at the board level, what is important is that we need experts who are, we need people who are experts in technology, digitalization, and also the geopolitical issues. And from a CEO standpoint, I'll again refer to Harish Bhai's statement of being human, right? And I think that is very, very important and critical, because he will have to establish his own credibility at stake.
No way, I think,
और ये social media का ज़माना है, right? We all understand and we know that reputation को आने में और जाने में वक्त नहीं लगता, right? And it is what he creates as a credibility of his own is going to make a huge difference in the way people are going to perceive things. And here, when I talk about people, I mean all the three of them, whether it is the employees, the customers, or the stakeholders. So that, to my mind, is something which is going to be very critical from a board. Though I can go on and on this.
No,
right?
yeah.
I think
I'm sure, and I'm sure everybody would want to hear more, and maybe that could be the next topic of conversation here. Last, I think we will wrap it up, and I see there are questions already coming in the chat already. But Dr. Chaturvedi, the last one's reserved for you. One thing to wrap up this whole session. While we've spoken future and future of work, etc., what do you think are biggest disruptors today, and what do you foresee more disruption to be like in the future? Very quickly, we're almost at 4 p.m., but over to you.
Again, I will repeat my statement that I don't know what will happen, how we cannot predict this thing. But yes, see, with all the information we are having, we cannot predict COVID coming in, right? And COVID has disrupted everything.
Dr. Harish, the voice
Yeah,
is echoing.
it's echoing.
Konika?
We still have the echo.
Konika?
We still have the echo. We still have an echo of your voice.
Okay.
There must be some device next to you.
Is-
Okay.
No, it's not. Is there another device open with this window?
Just a minute, close that. Yeah, okay. Is it okay now? I think
it's a little better, but I think we'll go with it because we are
Okay.
almost up on time. We'd love to hear from you before we
Sure.
close the session. Yeah.
So, Konika, I was talking about your with all the information we are having, COVID coming in. None of the organizations has put it in the register COVID is a risk for us, which is the biggest concern of the last 20 years. What I consider is जो भी change आएगा, it will come society. There was a time जब हम लोग joint family वाले में रहते, employee का time company में देता था, full time lifelong he used to stay in the company, right? फिर family वाले में लोग 5 साल छोड़ने लगे. Now the time has come from home, तो लोग office आना चाहते हैं. But with this reality, I don't know from employee point of view, from circumstances point of view, I can give you a few examples which really me how we are
Dr. Chaturvedi, you know, your voice is also breaking up as well as it is echoing. I don't know, Faisal, can we do something about this?
Maybe he can log off and log in is, I think, the only option where.
Okay, let me try it out.
Still, yeah.
Or maybe you can just turn off your video. No, I think thanks to everybody for the patience. I know we're already up on time, really, which is there.
I think he logged in on the system as well as on the mobile. So
Yeah, probably.
Konika, till the time I think he resumes, I think for the benefit of the audience, maybe you can share your perspective as well.
Yeah,
right?
actually,
Because
you
I
know,
think that's a very important part.
That is an important part, but I can already see there are questions which, you know, the audience is wanting to have answers to from you also. Faisal, can we take some of those questions up? It's okay with you by the time Dr. Chaturvedi comes back?
So what we can do is we can have the poll run by the time.
Yeah, please. I think that will be better.
Yeah,
would be better.
Sure. Yeah. So before we move into the Q&A session, request all the participants to give your valuable feedback on this session. During this time, we request all the participants to feel free and put their questions in the chat window.
I think Harish Bhai is back.
Konika?
Yes, I think it's better now.
Better now, right?
Yes.
So I was talking about the disruption, not exactly from the business point of view or from the HR point of view, but it is a circumstances point of view, which really fears sometimes. I was just reading some articles long back that there will be an editable human. The technology is already there. They are working on changing the genes of animals and the plants. If it happens for the human, so इच्छा मृत्यु वाला जो था वरदान जो मिला था इच्छा मृत्यु का भीष्म पितामह को, everyone will start getting that vardhan. So
that's very scary.
that is a scary how we are going to handle that situation. So one has to on that. So quickly I will go to the second point. The machine and manpower, people, human, they are working together. मेरे side पे एक machine बैठ के काम कर रही होगी, मैं भी काम कर रहा हूँ. We are interacting with each other, right? And subsequently, how it is going to affect my emotions, because वो emotions समझेगा नहीं समझेगा, I don't know, right? So the merging of human and the machine is another disruptive point which has come out from the circumstances which we are looking at. And third, which is very serious, is 3D printing and deepfake technology. That is the biggest, because D3 printing क्या करेगा पूरा का पूरा, if you want to construct a house, वो 3D print करके घर बना देगा. So how we are going to handle this thing? There will be a vertical cities, not apartments, not flats. There will be a vertical town altogether, right? So how we are going to handle this situation in future? And deep fake, मेरा face उठा के कहीं किसी के face पे exactly fit कर सकते हैं. And with the 3D printing, we can generate anything, anywhere, for anyone. Right. So how as a human we are going to handle this disruptions in the future, which really challenge to the entire organization and the entire community itself.
Absolutely. No, I think what you said and what you highlighted, absolutely very valid. Thank you so much. I think thank you all the panel members for your very, very valuable inputs. Faisal, if we are done with the poll, I see there are 2 questions which are there in the chat window. Do we have time to take them up?
Yes, we can take those 2 questions.
Thank you. So the first question I see is how work from home, Pooja is asking this question, how work from home is shaping the future of work. What are the positive and negative impacts on companies? So I think it's open to any of the panel members. Any views from any one of you?
I will not answer it directly, but since nobody is taking it, so I'll quickly add only one point to it, right? Which is very important to understand. Work from home is a model, right, which should be as per the business need. So if the business need is there, I think work from, and today when we are trying to attract global workforce, right, multiple talent across geographies, right, at that point in time, I think it's a blessing in disguise, right? But the organizations need to be ready, right, on variety of mechanisms to be operational with that work from home concept. But needless to say that typically, right, in manufacturing industries, or if we were to look at the businesses of a different sort, I think this is not a concept, with which we are going to be talking about. So there are merits and demerits of everything. But what is important for us to understand is that what is the need of the business, right, and how can it thrive and add value to the existence of the organization itself. And I think it should be a mechanism of, promoting the similar kind of a need. I think that's the way to look at it, rather than looking at it purely from a, merit and demerit perspective in terms of the future.
Yeah, and I think I'll just take the liberty of adding something over here because, to your point, the reports and all that we generate, and there was a study.
Monica is lost.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
So I think there's a study, Pooja, if you can get your hands onto it. It was released by Fortune in association with a lot of companies in India. About 50 of case studies you'll find in that book, which talks about future of workplaces. And you will find there is statistical example, while there's a lot of flexibility and people can do many more things and a lot of other things have become important in life, but you will see that the productivity have actually gone down. It's not gone up. So there's enough and more evidence on that one. So that's a negative impact really, which has come in. And that's what probably most business leaders are worried about when it comes to continuing with this, because hybrid is the way of working, but that's a thing. I'll move on to the next question. When we talk about future workplace and our readiness, how leaders along with management can safeguard common interests in present situation and function? Very interesting. I think a couple of things which are there in this question, Aditi. And anybody who would like to kind of talk about it. So I think she's wanting to know more about the leadership's readiness, keeping interest of the people in mind, taking care of, the disruptions happening around. That's what I've inferred from the question. Yeah, Sagar, please go ahead.
Yeah. So I think irrespective of all the disruptions and technological advancements happening, I think the CEOs and the boards, as rightly pointed out by Rakesh ji, everybody understands the importance of human capital, or human asset, which is for the company. I think, irrespective of all technological advancement, no company will work without employees. You will need, people to work upon, and the management will have to eventually keep in mind the people's expectations and deliverables and productivities and compensations and so on and so forth. I think that is not going to go away. So the common interest for any board or the CEO is to keep the business running, advance in the business, see the growth, go in few other areas and expand and so on and so forth. And I think the agility or that product stability which is required for any business to continue has to be the prime most, because if the business runs, if the business continues only, then all those aspects will fall in line. In simple words, the business has to work. Also, it has to take care of social interests. It cannot be the adverse to what we have in India and across the world. The business has to continue. When the work is there, all the work policies will fall in. I think it's all simple as that.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks a lot, everyone. Over to you, Faisal.
Thank you, Ms. Konika, for taking us through this session and making it such interactive and exciting. Thank you to Dr. Haresh, Mr. Rakesh, and Mr. Sagar for sharing your valuable thoughts and insights with us. It has been a privilege having you all for this engrossing session. To all those who wish to learn and grow, you can access the recording of our today's session on the YouTube link shared in the chat window. Before we conclude with today's session, we would also want to thank all the association members, Geisha, NASSCOM COE, Talgro, TLE, WICCI, LinkedIn Local, Ahmedabad and India for supporting HREI's events. To know more about these associations, request you to kindly visit the links provided in the chat window. Do join us for our next session, To the Point, by Prasenjit Bhattacharya, co-founder and CEO, Great Manager Institute, tomorrow, 20th of January, 2023. That's it from our today's webinar. Hope to see you soon. Stay safe, take care, and bye for now. Thank you, Ms. Konika.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you very much, Faisal, Konika, Haresh Bhai, and Sagar.
Thank you,
Thank
Rakesh.
Lovely. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. All the best.
Thanks. Okay, bye-bye. Bye.